guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rachel, and in today's video I'm going to be giving you my final semi-final one predictions. So what I usually do is I look at the rehearsal footage, I look at things that people are saying online as well about the jury rehearsals, about the dress rehearsals, that sort of thing, just to get an idea as to who is looking better in the live performance from the television angle than others, basically. And that's how I've sort of put together my basically list from 1 to 15 for semi-final one. So let me know down below in the comments who you've got qualifying this year. Who is your prediction? This one I think is a slightly easier semi-final to predict because there's some really hard-hitting songs in this one. Also, I think semi-final 2 is going to be much more difficult to really get correct this year. So I'm aiming to get at least 8 out of 10, hopefully, of semi-final 1. So we'll see what happens. So as it stands, these are the countries that I think are going through. I'm going to start from the top, and then when I get to number 9, I'm going to tell you my non-qualifiers, and then you'll see at the end who I think is just about sneaking through to the final. And of course, I've had to kind of change my strategy on how I'm predicting these this year because it's a televote only semi-final. So that's either going to help or hinder people's predictions, I think. In the past, I've usually been quite good at predicting the televote part of the votes and not so good with the juries, which is weird. So I'm hoping that it should go okay this year. We'll see what happens. But as it stands, the country that I think is winning semi-final 1 with probably a decent triple figure result is Finland, Käärijä with Cha Cha Cha. I think most people have unanimously put Finland as the winner of semi-final 1 because it is closing the show, it's colourful, it's catchy, and it's definitely something that kind of captures your attention from the moment that it starts. So this is a televote magnet song, and I am expecting this to get a really decent amount of points this year. They've got Norway and Sweden in the semi-final as well to give them points through neighbourly voting. There's other countries as well that I think will probably really latch onto this one. Maybe Ireland as well. I think they might kind of like this fun element. We'll see what happens. But right now, I do think they're winning this semi-final. The rehearsal footage looks really great. It looks very fun. So yeah, we'll see what happens, obviously. And then coming second in the semi-final, I've actually put Norway. Even though it's opening the show, I do think because this is viral on TikTok, it's going to appeal to a lot of people. And it's one of those songs that even though it's opening, people will remember it by the end. So I am expecting this to get actually quite a good televote score this year. Probably more than a lot of people are expecting right now. So I have kind of taken a gamble in putting this as second, but we'll see what happens. I am confident though that this will finish in at least the top 3 of the semi-final. We'll see. And then in third, I've got Sweden, Loreen with Tattoo. So a lot of people have put this one as second, and I do still see this in the top 3 of the semi, but I'm just going to put it third because I'm not sure how the voting patterns are going to look for this one. It's quite hard to predict because it is an absolutely captivating performance and vocal, which is probably going to get a lot of people talking on social media. So I am expecting this to get a lot of votes, especially from a lot of the countries here. But I'm wondering whether, you know, is this as much of a powerhouse in terms of televoting as Norway and Finland? And that's why I've just put it slightly below. But I reckon it's going to be just a little bit below second place here. We'll see. But this is absolutely cruising through to the final. And then in fourth place, I've taken a bit of a gamble with this one, but I've put Moldova because I do see televoters going quite mad for this one. It's got everything you need on stage to get people talking about it. You've got the flautist on stage, the 2 dancers with the horns, the interesting choreography, this sort of ethereal quality, and Moldova tend to pull a lot of televote points every single year that they compete, especially in the last 5 years. They've done extremely well. So I am expecting this to do better than people expect. And then in 5th place here, I have Serbia, Luke Black with Samo Mrs. Spava. So although this one is quite early on in the semi-final, I am expecting a lot of points to come in for this. It's so unique. There's nothing else in this semi quite like it as well. And I think even though it's early, people will remember this by the end and they will vote for it in quite big numbers. Not as much as Moldova, because I think this one is slightly kind of more polarizing maybe to people, whilst Moldova is a bit more palatable. It's quirky and interesting, but maybe it's a little bit too far for kind of the average person picking up the phone, let's say in like Portugal or something. We'll see what happens, but I do think this one is going to comfortably qualify this year, and I'm excited to see the performance of this one. It's in my top 10. And then in 6th place, another bit of a gamble here, but I'm quite confident about this one, Croatia. So I do think Croatia is qualifying. It's a televote only semi. If we had the juries, they would have absolutely murdered this one, probably put it last, and it would have had a very, very small chance of qualifying. But I do think they will go through this year. They do enough on stage that's quirky and camp, and I think people will remember this performance, especially if they're stripping off at the end as well. There's a talking point, there's a thing to get people, you know, tweeting about this one. So I do think there will be a lot of points towards it. People have concerns about whether this will go over people's heads. Will it be like a Rambo Amadeus type of entry, or will it be like a Trenyaletl 2023? So we'll see what happens. But I think this one will qualify. Some people also have this sneaking through to the final. For me, this is qualifying quite comfortably. And then in 7th place, another bit of a shock because a lot of people have this one a lot higher up, but I've put Israel in 7th. Now hear me out with this one because it looks so good. The rehearsal footage I've seen so far looks slick, it looks so professional, and she sounds vocally, from what I saw today, pretty good. But we have a tendency as Eurovision fans to rate these girly bop entries quite high up, and then they end up not doing as well as we expect. I'm thinking back to, for instance, El Diablo from 2021. I personally put that in the top 4, I think, of the semi-final, and it ended up not actually doing that well in the semi. It qualified in the televote, but kind of near the bottom 3. And then in the final, it didn't do too well either. So I want to be a bit prudent about Israel this year because it is really appealing to the Eurovision fans. But when you take yourself outside the Eurovision bubble, does this appeal as much? People will be impressed by this, but perhaps we need to be just a little bit prudent about the results for this one. So 7th, I think, is a safe bet, but we'll see. I could be proven wrong, and this could actually, you know, come in the top 3. So we'll see what happens. But I do think it is qualifying this year. And then 8th place, this is my first mind change of the year. So I previously didn't have this one in, but after seeing the rehearsal footage, after seeing live performances and clips of this and the way it's been staged, I'm quite confident that Switzerland is going to qualify tomorrow night. I think he's really impressed me with just the singing firstly, and they've done a good job with the staging where they've made it televote friendly. This could have tanked, but it's been brought to life by the staging, by the colours, by the dancing. It's all tastefully done, I think, in terms of the choreography, the ideas they've got and the colours. So I do think this will do enough to get enough points to go through, just about go through, but I do think his name will be called tomorrow. And yeah, I'm quite on board with this one now. I think I'll be shocked if it doesn't go through because I think he is delivering goods. And he has a strong vocal, and a vocal that sounds just like the studio track. But also, this has been going viral a little bit on TikTok as well, so we can't rule out the kind of outside communities, like the younger generations who are using TikTok, from watching Eurovision and voting for this one. So we'll see, but I am feeling more confident about this now. And then in 9th place, this one is a bit of a gamble for me as well because I'm really on the edge. I absolutely adore the song, but the rehearsal footage has been on and off for me. It just impresses me in some clips, but then I feel a little bit underwhelmed in other clips. It's Czechia, My Sister's Crown by Vesna. So I do think this will end up going through because visually it does stand out with the braids and the pink colour scheme, and it does look like the choreography is working with the lyrics. It's matching, it's flowing nicely. My only concern is the vocals, but because we don't have a jury here, I don't think there'll be a jury to tank this. That's the only kind of issue that this entry has had recently, is the vocal performance. But will the average voting public really kind of care about that? Or will they look at the visuals and the general kind of aesthetic of the song and the way that it sounds, not necessarily vocally, but in terms of the harmonies and the way they're presenting? I think this will go through. We'll see. I'll be devastated if it doesn't qualify, but I also won't be surprised because they have really tamed this one down. If they use the visuals of their music video with this kind of multiple colours, interesting quirky costumes, these really kind of bright looks, I think this would have stood out a little bit more, but they have muted everything down a little bit, so it's whether it stands out, but I think it has done enough. And now what I'm going to do, bottom up, my non-qualifiers. So unfortunately, this absolutely breaks my heart completely, but the country that I think is coming last this year, unfortunately, is Latvia. Now hear me out with this one, because it's my number 4 of the year. I think it's a stunning piece of music, but I think I don't want to have deja vu from last year. I had LPS in 5th and they ended up coming last in the semi-final. I didn't predict them coming into the semi-final as a qualifier. I had them as an NQ, but I didn't expect them to come dead last of the whole competition. And I thought that was a quality performance and piece of music, and I feel exactly the same way about Latvia. And I have the same suspicion that Latvia doesn't have enough neighbouring countries and momentum behind it to get enough votes. So I have put it last, and you'll see with the country that I've got above it why I've put it last. So the country I have above it is Ireland. This one has not impressed me so much with the rehearsal clips. The outfit doesn't quite work for me, the vocals don't sound that great, and I think the pyro feels like it overwhelms the stage show rather than adds to it. And also the band setup is so kind of like dispersed that it loses this charm and this magnetism, and it feels very displaced and kind of clunky to me. But also I don't know whether the voting public will really look at this one and think I'm going to like spend 20 votes on it. I don't think they'll have enough points to go through, but I do think they will have just a couple of extra points above Latvia because the song is a bit more accessible than Latvia, so that's why I've put it just above. We'll see what happens. If Ireland don't come last, that is an achievement, because they've been coming last for the past couple of years in their respective semi-finals, so it will be an achievement for them. But I really don't see this pushing to qualify this year, unfortunately, so I have put them in 14th. In 13th place, I have Azerbaijan, so Tural and Turanex with Tell Me More. This staging has impressed me so far. It feels colourful, it feels charming, and it feels like it really suits the general sound of the song, and it looks like they're really enjoying themselves, but I just think it all comes across as a bit tame. It's not necessarily plain anymore, but it just feels just a little bit too tame, and they are coming kind of close to where Loreen is in the running order, and I think people will still be talking about Loreen and not thinking about Azerbaijan when they're on the stage. So I'm concerned about this one's televotes, but I do think it will still get just a couple of points here and there to be better than Latvia and Ireland. And then in 12th place, I have the Netherlands. This one also breaks my heart because I do love the song, but unfortunately the live performances they've done at the pre-parties showed that vocally they couldn't handle the key. They've raised the key, it's higher, but now everything's in falsetto. And I think there's no climax to the song now, there's no like belting notes, there's no like show-off moments, because they've raised the key so high that they have to just sing the whole thing in falsetto. And they're now completely relying on camera work, staging, light play, kind of like the actions and the relationship and the chemistry between the two singers, which I don't think personally is enough to really get the audience on their side, because I think that the nail in the coffin really is the vocals and just this sort of tameness again about the song. It's a very strong semi-final. They are bringing something good, but it's not good enough, I think, to really push to qualify. There's other songs here which are just doing more interesting things than the Netherlands, unfortunately. But still, if this qualifies, I will be happy. I think it's been a good trajectory for them in this season, because we were very disappointed. I personally especially was disappointed in their pre-parties, and they have pulled it a little bit out the bag, but I think pulling it out the bag as in improving and really pulling it out the bag as in yes, this is qualifying are two different things, and they've kind of gone for the first option for me. So I don't see this going through, but it's still great. And now you've guessed that the two countries that I've got left, my 11th and 10th place here, are Malta and Portugal. And this one is kind of like throwing it around like, oh, you know, they're both on the borderline. If they both qualify, I'll be very, very happy. But what I've done here, and you'll see why in a sec, is in 10th I've got Malta. Now this is purely because I just think Malta's staging has the edge over Portugal's. They're using a little bit more memorable techniques there, with the kind of scene setups, the different props on stage, and this kind of memorable saxophone hook on there. Even though it is in second in the running order, I still think they are kind of bringing this charm and memorability, which should carry them through to when the recap comes along. People see Malta's performance and think, oh, do you know what, that was a really cute performance, and they give it a couple of votes. Whilst with Portugal has this kind of monochromatic colour scheme on stage with the reds and not really enough going on, so it's quite minimalistic, whilst Malta's felt a bit more maximalist. So it's whether people really go for that kind of catchy maximalism look or the minimalist Portuguese style performance that Portugal's bringing. And I personally think people are going to lean a little bit more towards Malta here than Portugal. If you asked me a couple of weeks ago, I would have had Portugal through, because their sound that they're bringing is very different from everything else. But the performance feels very forgettable, because even though her vocal is fantastic and she's one of the strongest vocalists of the semi-final in terms of like just the stamina of her performance and her ability to dance and sing at the same time and not really waver much, that is great. But visually there's not enough going on, and I feel like even with the dancers there just needed to be something else. Even the couch that they've neglected the couch that they had. So if they brought that, even that gives it just a little bit more of a USP. So unfortunately, I have Portugal as an NQ. If they go through, I'll be so happy, because it will just bring this like interesting genre to the final. A bit of breathing space between all these pop songs and rock songs, and we have like this Portuguese traditional style, this fun bouncy type of song. It will be like a nice part of the grand final, and I think I'd love to see it there. But realistically, I'm not so sure that's going to happen. So those are my predictions. To just recap the ones I think are going through: Finland, Norway, Sweden, Moldova, Serbia, Croatia, Israel, Switzerland, Czechia and Malta. And the non-qualifiers: Portugal, Netherlands, Azerbaijan, Ireland and Latvia. So let me know down below the ones that you think are qualifying and non-qualifying tomorrow night, and I'll keep you guys posted on my Twitter account of my journey to Liverpool and everything. I'm so excited, and if I see any of you guys there tomorrow, feel free to say hi. I do suffer from something called introvert, so don't be surprised if I'm not as bubbly as I am usually in my videos. But yeah, it'd be nice to see you guys, and yeah, I'm excited. So let me know and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.